शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवद्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः। नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। यश्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया आस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पूर्णमदः अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि द्रविणगुं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत्। अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मा ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य मानि ईस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु tadvaktaramavatu. Avatu mam, avatu vaktaram, avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yo Om Api Vataya Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bhadran Karnebhih Shrunuyama Devaha. Bhadram Akshema Akshabhiryajatraha. Sthirairangaistushtruvagumsastanubhihi. Yashema Devahitam Yadayuhu. Swasti na Indo Vridhashvaha. Swasti nः Pusha Vishwavedaः. Swasti nastarksho Arishtanemihi. Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadatu. Om Shanti Shanti. Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam. Yo Vai Vedamscha Prahinoti Tasmai. Tam Hadevamatma Buddhi Prakasham. Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om ityetadakshara idagum sarvam. Tasya upavyakyanam. Bhutam bhavat bhavishyatiti. Sarvam omkara eva. Yacchanyat trikalatītam. Tadapyonkara eva. Sarvagum hi etat brahma. Ayamatma brahma. Soyamayam atma chatushpad. Jagritasthano bahishprajñah. Saptanga ekona vimshati mukhaha. Sthula bhuk vaishvanaraha prathama padaha. Swapnasthano antah prajñah. Saptanga ekona vimshati mukhaha. Pravivikta bhuktajaso dvitiya padaha. Yatra supto na kanchana kamam kamayate. Na kanchana swapnam pashyati tat sushuptam. Sushuptasthana eki bhutaha. Pragyana ghana eva anandamayaha. Hya anandabhuk cheto mukha pragyah tritiya padaha. Hi anandabhuk cheto mukha pragyah tritiya padaha. Esha sarveshvaraha. Esha sarvagyaha. Esho antaryami. Esha yonihi. Sarvasya prabhavapyayau hi bhutanam. So I had a chance to correct your just a not a full exam, but just a quick one, and I think you all did well. Although I must say that in correcting your answers and so on and so forth, I got reminded of this a story by Swami Dayanandji, which I have told you before, so forgive me for repeating it. So the story is that of Sherlock Holmes and his sidekick, Dr. Watson. So these two were, Sherlock Holmes was a very famous sleuth who used to solve mysteries, murder mysteries and so on and so forth in London. So he was in the main city and he was a city dweller. So one day he and his assistant, Dr. Watson, decided, we've never gone out to the countryside to enjoy the sights of stars and moon and so on and so forth. So let's do it. So they said, well, we have to figure out how to do it. So they got some sleeping bags, they got a tent, and so they went out to the countryside and pitched, the tent and so on and so forth, lit a fire, and they were just enjoying it, and finally they went to sleep. So in the middle of the night, Sherlock Holmes wakes up, and then he wakes up Dr. Watson, and he says, "Hey, wake up." So this guy said, "Why? What's happening? What's happening?" He says, "See above you. What do you see?" So he says, "Well, I see some stars." And he says, "What else do you see?" He says, I see the constellation is moving in such a direction from east to west. And so he says, "What else?" He says, "There are some combinations of stars that I felt they were on this side, but this is several months later, they're on this side." He says, "What else?" He says, "I don't know what else. What are you talking about?" He says, "Fool, don't you see that our tent has been stolen? When we went to sleep, our tent was there, and now the tent is gone. Don't you see that?" He says, "Oops, I forgot about that." So this is not completely, I'm just exaggerating. But I think from your answers, it was interesting that you went into a lot of detail sometimes about the first verse, the second verse, the meaning of the third, some of them, not all of you. And really, for a quiz, I didn't want, I don't expect you to do all of that. Really what you should have said is that what the first 6 verses indicate about you, as the quiz said, is that you are very involved in personalities, but you are a person with personalities. And personalities can be gotten rid of. Just like even clothes. Clothes are a personality. That's an expression of your personality. And whether you wear pastel colors or you wear loud colors, that's part of your personality. But it's something that you can get rid of. The person you is you. So that's not something you can get rid of. You are you. So what the first 6 verses said is we need to establish the viveka between personality and person. So in the case of, we've seen all of this before, all I wanted was just a kind of a essence of what it is. And if your answer would have been, and some of you actually did that, where you say the essence is that here are the various expressions of the personalities, and here is where the person which is different from the personality. And then in the Adi Shankara's conclusion, the essence of the conclusion was what is, and we haven't really started the full review of what the person is. But the three different aspects of it, which I think all of you probably saw that, which is ekatvam, shuddhatvam, and asangatvam. It was just an introduction to the person. That's really all I wanted, and so on. So you went into a lot of detail about, but really that is the essence of what I wanted. And it's really interesting. If there is a so just to close off that topic, and then we will go into the main next class, that if you are an actor, means you are a person, and you take on certain roles, which means you take on certain personalities, then your conclusion about who you are and what the personality is quite clear, and it doesn't cause any problems. The problems come in if for some reason you don't know who you are as a person. Swami Dayanand used to say this. He says, as assuming, for example, that there's an actor, and usually many of this, even the singers and the actors, they have a little alcoholic drink before they go on performance, just so that it kind of gives them a little freedom from anxiety. But supposing there's a guy who's had a bit too much to drink, and he's under the influence of liquor when he's performing. He thinks that he's performing, but he's lost his identity as to who he is because of liquor. So supposing there is some kind of a fight scene where somebody is to give him a big slap, and he's supposed to say, "I'm very sorry, I shouldn't have done this," and the other person is pummeling him and so on. This time this fellow says, "Who the heck is he to pummel me?" So he starts fighting with him, and it completely blows his whole play. So the director and all that, they all say, "Why goodness, what do you do?" He says, "I hate being hit by like this. He always hits me so hard, and I don't want to do that anymore." He says, "But that's your role." He says, "Forget about my role. I don't want to do any of this." So all of the problems come in because of the lack of distinguishing between who the person is and who the personality is. And so this is really the truth, that in our life, we go through the entire life just going from one personality to the other. And it appears to be a problem. Some of the roles are pleasant, some of them often are not pleasant. And I try to avoid the unpleasant, go into the pleasant. All this time because I have not inquired into who I am. And if I were to do that, then the encumbrances of the personality becomes a completely different altogether. It's just something which I can get rid of, and if something troubles me or something, I can just stay within myself and understand who I am. So this is really the essence of what this whole Upanishad is. And so it's the inability to distinguish between the person and the personality. And at this point, Mandukya is primarily discussing the personality. Then in the 7th verse, which we will take up later on, it starts to define the person in much more detail, which we will see. We haven't started that, but some hints have been given what it is. But basically, this is what the intent of the first 6 verses is. This example that I was telling you about, and I'm being a little bit too harsh in saying that you missed that's not it. Really speaking, this example is cited by the acharyas that we make our job a lot harder by not looking at the obvious. It is something to be remembered. Just recently I was reading one of the chapters on Panchadashi by Swami Maheshananji, where Vidyaranya is pointing out exactly the same thing. This comes up at various places. And that is the attitude. This is very interesting, where the Siddhanta and Purva Paksha. Siddhanta and Purva Paksha means that after you tell what the truth is, you start to examine the Purva Paksha, which is Siddhanta. You start to examine Purva Paksha, which is objections for it. And in the dialogue between the Siddhanta and Purva Paksha, it's not as though you are attacking anyone, but you try to just clarify your own thinking. And so in that is the that will come in later on in the various, even here in the Karika and Mandukya, this will come in a big way. So we will study it later, but I'm just giving you a quick introduction to it. So there, it was pointed out that the Purva Paksha, the people who object to what Vedanta is saying, they are saying it cannot be this easy. Cannot be this easy. How can this be so easy? What are you talking about? You have to go through. You have to go through all kinds of things, and there's the entire history of mankind and so on, and you guys are coming up with something which is this is not right. And so this example of the Sherlock Holmes and Watson is intended to really give this example, and all the acharyas different examples of the same thing. And so in this, just to close off that, so in this dialogue that occurs between Siddhanti and the Purva Pakshi, so for example, the normal Purva Pakshi, which includes all the scientists, by the way, all the scientists, every one of them, they're all trying to figure out, how does this consciousness start? How does it start? What is the nature of the consciousness? Is it a combination of things? And so on. So they are continuously examining, and they have their own methodology. It has to be replicated, it has to be proven in the laboratory, and so on and so forth. And in this dialogue between the Siddhanti and the Purva Pakshi, what the Purva Pakshi is saying, what this appears to be true, and what is the nature of this truth? And the Vedantin says, it's not true. So Ishvara actually has made this whole beautiful creation out of this basic idea that you can have something which is not true. So the various examples, the famous example of the, who's that? It's not mine. I don't think so. I think I left mine back there. The famous example of the rope and the snake. So, you can say, well, what is the reason for me to see the snake? So then the question is, there is no snake. Why are you looking into the reasons why you saw the snake? There is no snake. He says, yes, there is, because I see one. He says you shouldn't see this. If you just look at it, it is just your imagination. And so anyway, so this example that Swamiji gave, just to close off that, is to show that we are taking the hard way by not understanding something which is obvious. That I am a conscious being who is never born, who is always there, and which is Brahman, which is the very content of Ishvara, always there, is something that should be obvious. But we disregard it. No, I can't be that simple. How can I be one that is not born? No. So we go into this circuitous route and so on and so forth. So that is what is intended by this example that Swamiji was very fond of giving. And when I was looking at your quiz answers, it reminded me of it. It is not the same thing. I'm not accusing you that you are. But I think that, and perhaps my quiz and the way I presented it was not very clear. In 10 minutes, I don't expect you to, and some of you really went through. I'm amazed how in 10, 12 minutes you are able to put so much detail into it. I'm very impressed by it. But really all I wanted was, what is the essence of it? And the essence is that I am not the personality, I am the person. And the implication of that are the three that Adi Shankara had given. So anyway, that was it. I have many of your answers, and then you can pick them up later on. Okay, so we are at the moment looking at the second karika. The second karika Dakshinaakshi mukhe vishvaha manasi antastu taijasaha akashe cha hridi pragyaha tridha dehe vyavasthitaha. This is what we're looking at. So, just as a reminder, what the karika, the definition of the karika, as you know by now, that it is simply not just limited to commenting on the Upanishad. It is not restricted to that. It adds something to, it may add something to the Upanishad. It may clarify also. It is independent. It's an independent study, which is obviously the subject matter is the same. It's not as though you're going in some kind of a tangent. That's not it. But you have the freedom to explain the subject matter even beyond what the Upanishad is strictly doing in this particular Upanishad, because you have lots of Upanishads and they combine together give the vision which is complete. But the Karika is kind of like an expanded view of the Upanishad. And we say that because, as we will see, this is what our main study will be today. The Karika is pointing out a couple of things. One is the word Dehe Vyavasthitaha. Dehe Vyavasthitaha means that the various personalities that you see, namely Taijasaha, Pragyaha, and Vishvaha, all the three personalities, are connected to your avatara in this body. So we have taken an avatara in this body. Avatara means an identification. An identification within this life itself. So all this is within this life. So this is not a very big point, but nevertheless it points out that it's not as though your experiences are completely unrelated to who you are. In fact, I think that would be a good way to say that. So for instance, supposing there is an actor who plays a role, and the actor is, let's say, has a particular dimension. Let's say Amitabh Bachchan, who is he's a very tall guy. I don't know how tall he is, but he looks very tall. And the roles that he would play would show the tallness of the actor. You see? Tallness of the actor. Even if he were to play a completely different role, supposing he is playing a role of a woman, I don't think he has, but he could. It will be a tall woman. So the tallness will be very much a part of that. So similarly here, dehe vyavasthitaha means that even the personalities that you see are related to your avatara as a dehi, as a person who has taken the particular janma in this manner. This the Upanishad had not pointed out. So this is one thing. Then the more important thing that the Karika is pointing out, which is what we were going to go through today, is that don't feel that the swapnavastha and the sushupti avastha, the two states of experiences, are not experienced in the Jagrat avastha. In the Jagrat avastha also you feel some remnants of the other two. And this is why are we pointing it out? What is the reason for it? Because it helps me to understand the nature of the Jagrat avastha. And really, to understand the nature of the Jagrat avastha means I am aware of the functioning of this person taking on different personalities at different times. And I am aware of exactly what is happening to me. And by doing this kind of awareness, by being aware of in this kind, I'm able to reach my person in a better way. In a better way means I can understand the subtlety of the person better, faster, more clearly, if I am aware of the various states of my personality even within the Jagrat avastha. This is what the Karika is adding to what the Upanishad is saying. This is an important addition. And I'm not, don't take my word for it, I'm just looking at what Swami Maheshananji is pointing out. So what he's pointing out here is the intent of the Gaudapada's Karika. Don't think of it as a fact that that the Swapnavastha and the Sushupti Avastha is completely different from the Jagrat Avastha. See, the Jagrat Avastha is also a personality. All of them are distinct from the person. We're not saying that it is all present in the person. And we're not saying that. All we're saying is that the personalities are all mixed up. They're not distinct. as you one might think. So that is the reason why it is being pointed out. So there we saw the Dakshina Akshi Mukhe Vishwaha we saw already last week, which is that my experiences during the Jagrat Avastha is through the sense organs, through eyes, and my interpretations of sounds, forms, etc. That's very obvious. We all know that. But now what happens is that I also live in a subtle world which is independent of sense organs. This is also part of the Jagrat Avastha. In fact, I would say most of the time you are really not experiencing your sense organs. Most of the time you live in the expressions of the mind. Anyway, so whether it is most or least or anything we will see later on, but let's just look at the process. So here it is pointed out that suppose you have your eyes open and you're looking at people and you know what they're wearing and so on and so forth. Then you keep your eyes closed for a minute. Now the images of the people are still there in your mind and you're looking at them. And by the way, this particular process is different from pure memory. So these are what would be called impressions, not memory. Because the memory would be where it has already gone into the recesses of your mind. You've forgotten, and I have to remind you, do you remember this person who used to be a student in this class 2 years ago? And you'll say, no. Don't you remember he used to sit over here and his name? Oh, yes. That is a memory. That is a memory. But to dwell in the images that have been imprinted in the mind as part of your daily transactions is not memory. These are just impressions. And you are dealing with that. In fact, one of the other things, very interesting thing is, what you are dealing with is the impressions of what you see. You don't deal with what you see. So, what you see gets converted through your mind into impressions. This is why different people have different reactions to the same event, to the same person. You may see a person and somebody will say, you have a smile comes to your face because you like that person. Another person may frown at that person because of the samskaras of dislike. So, really speaking, at any one time, we are looking at the mental impressions in my mind, which in most cases in Jagrata Avastha is defined by my sense organs, but not necessarily. So that is what is meant by manasi antastu taijasaha. So the second part of that here is that even in the Jagrata Avastha, my mind is receptive to impressions and I look at the impressions on my mind as though I am in swapna. So the only difference here is that in the swapna avastha, you are purely mental. Because the sense organs are absent. You invent the sense organs. Very interesting, really, that how you can see things in the swapnavastha without having the sense organ. How remarkable. You see the sun while it is completely dark. And you hear things when your eyes, your ears are not functioning. So in the swapnavastha, it is completely devoid of any sense organs. Whereas in the Jagrata avastha, you still live in a swapnavastha from time to time, but it is very much influenced by your sense organs. That's the only thing that happens. So this is number two. Then in akashe cha hridi pragyaha. This is also important. So now let us look at it. So that means in the deep sleep state, there is absence of transactions. There's no transactions going on. But you are still there. You haven't disappeared. You're still there. The same thing happens in the Jagrata avastha. When does it happen? How does it happen? When you are not thinking of anything. Your mind's vrittis are quiet. And so one has to see that this is the truth. That there is a complete absence of any thought, complete absence of any transactions, but I'm still there. So therefore, both the other two states of experiences also present themselves in the third state of experience. So here, Vartikakara Sureshwaracharya has made a very interesting point. He says, both the prana and manaha are absent in this state. What state? Akashe cha hridi pragyaha. In fact, the state of deep sleep, both the manaha and pranaha are completely absent. So there one question comes up, wait a second, I can see that the manaha is absent, but the prana is not absent. Because, I'm breathing, and in fact my snoring is disturbing the people around me. So if for somebody to say, no, there was no prana, no manaha, the other person say, yeah, you made me kept awake during the night and you were blissfully sleeping. So here, and this is all discussed in the Vartika by Sureshwaracharya, he says no. No, I'll tell you why he says. He says that others may be disturbed by your prana and they see the presence, but you do not have a feeling that I am breathing, I am snoring. You don't, and in fact, you don't have any identification with the fact that you are breathing, the fact that you are thinking. You don't have any identification. Complete absence of identification with the manaha and pranaha. Here, Sureshwaracharya gives a beautiful example. He says that the manaha and pranaha are like the back side and the front side. I'm sorry, the other way around. The pranaha and the manaha are like the back side and the front side of a mirror. So the front side is the one that gives you a clear reflection. But the front side of the mirror cannot occur unless the back side also has been prepared properly. You cannot see yourself on the back side, but you cannot see even in the front side unless the back side is there. So the prana is like the back side, and the manaha is like the front side. How do we say that? Why do we say that? Because for the manaha to be present, some activity must be there. So the manaha means the mental activities, what is called manovritti. Called manovritti. Vritti means some kind of a form. Every thought has a certain form. And that form is not possible unless prana is there. And what happens is that the prana and manaha both have become avyaktaha. They are still there. Avyaktaha means they are not vyaktaha. They are not present. They are not visible. So they become invisible. They are not absent. They are not absent, but they become invisible. Both pranaha and manaha. So therefore, we can now summarize that as far as the individual is concerned, manaha and pranaha are both absent. Even though from other standpoint prana may be present, but you don't feel I'm thinking. This is what the fifth one. Remember, we saw this. The fifth one. Yatra suptona kanchan kamaha kamayate na kanchana swapnam pashyati tat sushuptam. Sushuptasthanaha ekibhutaha pragyanaghanaha eva anandamayaha. We will go into all of that in a second. So in summary, the sushupti, manaha and pranaha are both absent because of the lack of identification with them. It's not as though they are absent. They are not absent because you can tell that others are also, they cannot see your thoughts, but they can surely hear your snoring. They can hear you breathing. They can see your breathing. But you as a person do not identify with either breathing or thinking. And in fact, this is also pointed out in great detail in the discussion, which I won't have time to go into. But really speaking, from a macrocosmic standpoint, both manaha and pranaha are always present. Always present. And even in pralaya, where everything is completely silent. You see, pralaya and laya are different. Laya means, laya actually has two forms. Laya has a soft form in the case of a night when you are sleeping. That means it has gone into uparama. It has become avyakta. Nothing disappears. Nothing dies. It is always either full of expression or it is not full of expression. So this is laya, soft laya. Hard laya is death. Hard laya is death. That means, so now look at this. In both forms of laya, soft laya and hard laya, what happens is simply that your identification is not with manaha and prana. You don't say I am thinking. You don't even say I am alive. To say I am alive is an identification with prana. So you don't say I am alive. That means if you're not alive, that means you should be dead. But you're not, this is a soft layer. You're not dead yet. But when you actually die, you know what happens? Prana and life continues, but your identification with it ceases for the time being. So from a macrocosmic standpoint, samashti standpoint, there is never any disappearance of manaha and prana. Never. Except for when the whole Maya Shakti has been exposed. In which case then they also disappear in the form of Brahman alone. That's a separate thing. But we're talking about Srishti, the whole at the level of Srishti. Then in Pralaya, so we talked about the two forms of Laya, soft Laya and the hard Laya. But in Pralaya, what happens is that the whole Srishti goes into Avyakta. Not individual Avyakta. Because in hard Laya, when you say the person is dead, the person is never dead, but the personality is dead. That means that in the hard Laya, the identification of a jiva with prana and manaha ceases until a new one comes up. So there is always manaha and always prana all the time. Now, to come back to the topic that we started with, I went into some detail here. In the topic we started, just like you have no identification with manaha and pranaha in sushupti avastha, you can also have the same thing in Jagrata avastha. How? Because, for example, even now when you are awake and so on, you can feel your breathing. You can you can tell you're thinking, you're seeing. So your identification in manaha and prana is there, but there are portions of your existence during the Jagrata Avastha when you are not thinking of anything. And also you are not aware of the fact that you are breathing. In fact, this is a very beautiful thing. If Ishvara had made the breathing under your control, we would be in deep trouble. Deep trouble. As soon as you just stop breathing, you're going to die. Doesn't happen. It is very interesting that really Ishvara gives you a feeling that you are involved with breathing, but you are really, he controls everything. Same thing is true, by the way, about cooking food. Cooking food. Really what makes life present is cooked food, not uncooked food. And so if you eat something like one of those vegetable smoothie, which is completely uncooked and so on, it has to be cooked. In order for it to become blood and all the other nutrients and so on, they cannot directly be converted. So Ishvara is the one through your Jatara Agni who does the cooking for you. You're not cooking it yourself, but it is done automatically for you. So similarly, the breathing also is automatically done by Ishvara. You're not really responsible for it. That's why during portions of your Jagrat Avastha, you can cease the identification with breathing, identification with thinking. You become just quiet, doing nothing. But you don't disappear. You don't disappear. It's just avyaktaha. The whole thing is nothing but just identification with it. So therefore, now to close off the thing, what Gaudapada is saying in this Karika, that in the Jagrat Avastha, elements of your experience of Swapna Avastha and Sushupti Avastha are there, even in the Jagrat Avastha. Jagrat Avastha. And what is the reason? Why should I know this? This will be clarified a little bit more later on. But it just means you are aware of the intricate functioning of your personality as a way for you to do viveka between the person and the personality. Instead of lumping everything together into one big thing, he says, I don't care. No, we need to care. We need to understand exactly how my life is functioning. Sometimes with sense organs, sometimes in the mind, and sometimes without anything, but I'm still there. This is the purpose of doing this. Okay, so let's see if I can go now to... I think I'm pretty much done with that. So let's go to Karika number 3. So let's pronounce it once. Vishvo hi sthula bhung nityam
Vishvo hi sthula bhung nityam
Taijasaha pravivikta bhuk Ananda bhuk tatha pragyaha Tridha bhogam nibodhata Vishva hi sthula bhuk Nityam Taijasaha Prabivikta Bhuk Ananda Bhuk Tatha Pragyaha Tridha Bhogam Nibodhata. So here the analysis of my experiences, how I experience things, including Ananda, is being analyzed. And also the original thought is kept in mind. The original thought being that the elements of the Swapna Avastha and Sushupti Avastha are present in the Jagrat Avastha. This is the original thought. This fact is further explained from the standpoint of how I experience Ananda, or the lack thereof. This is the main reason for this Karika number 3. So here, just look at this picture. So the picture has two complete extremes. And the one extreme is that of animals, the animal kingdom. The other extreme is the devas. These are the two extremes. And the human being is traveling between these two. These are the two ends of the travel. And what do we mean by that? So, this is all clarified in this in the Karika, or at least the explanation is given with this view, this in view. The animal experience is primarily without the mind. So the animals, for example, they will feel hunger. They will feel some danger. Or they will feel attractiveness to the opposite sex. So their conduct in life is based very much on the body and some pranaha. Some pranaha. Pranaha means hunger. Hunger means pranaha. It's one of the physiological aspects of it. So the animals are primarily living close to the Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha. Now let's look at the other way around. The Devas actually do not have a body. Can you believe it? They do not have a body. Just look at the implications of this. Implication is they are not born into the womb of their mother. They are not starting with a speck in the semen of their father and the garbha of their mother, and slowly growing up and slowly becoming a body and conscious of the body, the hunger. There's no hunger. Devas don't have that. They don't in fact have a body. In fact, this all comes from from our Shastras, which says, Devaha na khadanti na pibanti. They don't eat, they don't drink. So then what? It's all in the mind. What do you mean by they're all in the mind? How do they enjoy? Well, now I'll come back to it in a minute, but look at the human being. What the human being is, we can actually be very close to the animal, this end of the spectrum, where we are very involved with the body. So, for example, food, taste, hunger, sex, and so on. All of that is body oriented. But we can also start to enjoy the ananda of the mind. Music, thoughts, discussions, subtleties, debates, and so on. These are all mental things. Here Swami Maheswaranji pointed out that, that for example, even food, you can just eat dal roti, and that's enough for you. You're hungry, and you don't really have to think about it. But then pretty soon, we begin to get more subtle about it. Dal roti, just dal roti. No. It has to be with some taste. And so now you have gastronomical experiences where you go to these restaurants and so on and so forth, and Michelin star 3. It is not just dal roti. It has some, although the latest thing, it was interesting, have you heard this? that the Indians are feeling that our khichdi, have you heard this? Our khichdi is not being really promoted. You know, you have this, what's it called? The Italian, huh? No. Risotto, exactly. They're saying this darn risotto, which is very simple, it's become so popular. Our khichdi has so much character and so many things that you can do. So now they are starting to really promote khichdi as a staple diet for. So anyway, so you have all these subtle tastes that you can do. And these, so really in fact, if you think about it, most of our enjoyment is mental enjoyment. And so now you can see the other extreme. Go back to complete the analysis of the Devas. The Devas only have mental enjoyment. Music. And just the subtleties of perhaps taste. I don't know. I have no idea how that all happens. It's all in the subtle air. So you do have a personality. There is a Deva. But it is, and also the Devas, interestingly enough, you can say, how can that happen? How can you not be born? How can you not have a mother and this, that, or the other? This is not possible. We do the same thing in Swapnavastha. We suddenly appear on the scene. We create people. We're not waiting for them to be born and to be so on and so forth. Instantly. So the Deva experience also exactly is the same. Anyway, going back to it, now that we have laid the two extremes, now we can go to verse number 3. Vishwa hi sthula bhuk. Sthula bhuk means a experience of ananda which is very tied to the body and the prana. Taijasaha pravivikta bhuk. Distinct from that is the bhuk, the experience of the Taijasaha. What do you mean by distinct from that? In fact, the word pravivikta bhuk comes from the Upanishad itself. Remember? So in number 4, Swapnasthanaha antah pragyaha saptangaha ekona vimshati mukaha pravivikta bhuk taijasaha dvitiya padaha. So now the pravivikta bhuk is also brought in the Jagrat Avastha. Now you can see how, because the ananda of the mind is totally different from the ananda of the body. You can imagine, the scientist who is examining some new truths about, let's say, a new medical discovery or astronomical discovery, any kind of a discovery and so on. Their ananda has nothing to do with the body. In fact, the hunger in the body becomes an obstruction. The guy will just chow down something quickly just because the hunger is bothering him. But he goes back to what he really is, the ananda, which is the mental ananda. This is the meaning of pravivikta bhuk. Pravivikta bhuk means totally different. Body has nothing to do with it. So here, Swami Maheshanji pointed out, that's interesting, in the case of the Swapnavastha, the Pravivik, because in the Swapnavastha is what verse number 4 pointed out, is the Pravivikta bhuk, means that the enjoyment or the lack thereof in the Swapnavastha is naturally given to you. Naturally given to you. You don't have to do anything because you cannot do anything. We don't have the sense organs to take care of at that point. You are just imagining things. These are all mental, that's why if you have a very pleasant dream, you're nice. If it's not a pleasant dream, you're not happy. But those variations of the mind are all naturally given to you. Whereas in the Jagrata Avastha, you have to be aware of the nature of the Pravivikta bhuk. See, this is why it's important to see that in fact you can see this. As a human being, where are you in this spectrum? Are you closer to being an animal? Or are you closer to being a devata? And if you are always thinking about the pleasures of the body, the food, etc., you should know you are closer to this spectrum. Whereas if you inculcate, if you develop, and through education and so on and so forth, this is what we do. We begin to develop a sense of ananda, which is mental. And so we become closer to the devatas. And then, I'm running out of time, but I think I can finish this. Ananda bhuk. Ananda bhuk means where you are naturally given ananda in the deep sleep. Naturally given in the deep sleep, in the Sushupti Avastha. But you can also see the elements of that even in the Jagrata Avastha. You can see elements of that in the Jagrata Avastha also. In fact, any ananda that you have is nothing but something that you have to earn in the Jagrata Avastha. And you have to be aware of the implications, aware of the presence, not implications, where the presence of it. So we studied this in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad we studied Modaha Dakshinav Pakshaha, Pramodaha Uttarav Pakshaha, Ananda Atpucham Pratishtha. So here also you can see the gradations of ananda. So modaha is just the presence of something that you like is modaha. Here Swami Maheshanji gave this example. He gives this example very often because he must have lived in Calcutta or something. And he's really fond of the Bengali rasagullas. So he gives this example. So he says, supposing he was sitting there and somebody brings him a box full of authentic Bengali rasagullas. He says just the sight of the box gives you modaha. Okay, just the sight, because it reminds you of the taste of the I'll give you a Western example. Let me shift the example. So in my family, we've been always going to Hawaii once a year for a family vacation or something. So this has been happening for the last so many years. And so there used to be an ice cream vendor called Leopard's Ice Cream. I don't know if you've seen that or not. So a long time ago, we started to really appreciate Leopard's Ice Cream. Now they've sold their shops. In fact, we were there last year, and it's no longer there. But they have a few outlets still there. So when you see leopards, it is modaha, means that this is good. You haven't eaten the ice cream yet. You haven't eaten, but it is good to see that the shop is there. This is called modaha. Then everybody has a favorite, and my favorite is coffee ice cream. I like coffee ice cream. And so sometimes you go there and they say, oh, sorry, we are out of it. So that is just modaha, but not pramodaha. So the pramodaha means that they have it, and then you can actually get a scoop of coffee ice cream. This is called pramodaha. But you have not tasted it yet. When you taste it, it is ananda. And here, Swami Maheshananji points out a very beautiful thing. He said, look at this. In moda and pramoda, there is in fact a difference between the experiencer and the experienced. To be experienced in the case of moda, almost there in the case of pramoda. And even when you're eating, you are both aware of the fact that this is very tasty, something that you like, and you have the ability to, you are not sick. Like for example, if I was sick the last couple of weeks or so, even if the leopard's ice cream was there, I would not have been able to enjoy it. I could hardly breathe. So the experiencer has to be there, experience has to be there. Then, listen to this. When you eat the ice cream, what is left is ananda. The experience also disappears. The experiencer disappears. The experienced disappears. All the triputi, the experience disappears. All three of them disappear. And what is left is just ananda. So now we can complete the fact that all the elements of the three states of the experience, namely Sushupti Avastha, Jagrata Avastha, and so on, are present in the Jagrata Avastha. You should be aware of that at any one time. And by being aware of it, you become cognizant of the functioning of the personality, how it is happening. This is the main purpose of it. And so one last thing, pragyaha tridha bhogam nibodhata. Tridha bhogam nibodhata. Bhogam means that tridha bhogam means that the experiencing of all three of them is nibodhata. Nibodhata means nishchayena bodhata, means please see this very clearly. So here's why Maheshanji pointed out beautifully. He said, Ishvara has given you the bhoga naturally in the other two states of your experience. But in the Jagrata Avastha, all three of them are present. Body experience is present, Devata experience is present, and the very nature of Ananda is also present. So this is what is called nibodhata. May you recognize it. In the other two, it is given naturally. You don't have to recognize or anything. You don't have to do anything. The moment you go to sleep, you don't have to. All the work that you do is that you should somehow fall asleep. Then the rest of that is given to you naturally. But in the Jagrata Avastha, even though it is present, you are not aware of it. But to be aware of the various things, the states of my experiences, and so on and so forth, makes you a little bit more, it makes you a viveki. And for you to understand the person, the distinguishing of the shades of personalities are important. So that's the main meaning of this, the third. Here Swami Maheshanji says that please do this as an abhyasa. Make this into your own life and see how this happens. Be aware of it at all times. And practice it. Practice it means be aware of it again and again to see how you are different from this. So let me just say a prayer and then we will leave some time for questions. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Maheshaha Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyaha Prithvi Sasya Shalini Desho Yam Kshobarahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhave Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityo Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om. Yeah, Rani, you had a question?
I'm not sure I completely followed the explanation for the Pragya Jadhan Bodha.
You did not follow which one, sorry?
The last one, Pragya Jadhan Bodha.
Okay, so Ananda Bhuk Tatha Pragyaha. That Pragyaha goes with the first line of the first part of the third line. Ananda Bhuk Tatha Pragyaha. Pragyaha means one who is completely asleep is Pragyaha. And so that is Ananda Bhuk. This is where you experience Ananda at the maximum one. So Tridha Bhogam Nibodhata means that the Bhogam, your experiences of pleasure, are of these three kinds. Please know that. Please make a note of it. That's what it means, Tridha Bhogam Nibodhata. So namely, the three kinds of experiences where obviously based on the body and the prana, mind, and then finally the culmination of everything into an ananda which has certain shades to it. Moda, pramoda, and finally ananda. That's what it really means. I'm running out of time, but I'll just take one question. Sorry, Shilpa, please keep your... Yeah.
Is there any specific significance to the fact that Vishwa is in the right eye and not the left eye, or
So were you there in the last class? We discussed that. So what it was said is simply that the right eye is usually stronger. Usually stronger. So both of them are there. but one of them takes the lead. So that's how we were discussing it. Yeah. Sorry, Shilpa, will please keep your question. Okay.